intelligence is, the third level, one of the sons and daughters of light, which means you become united with the light. And the light is truth, universal truth. Now, based upon that point, that brings to my mind at one point in time, there was not a solar system, right? Right? At one point in time, there was not a solar system. Right? Okay, let's say, in the beginning there was void, darkness, and then there was, so, here we go. This comes out of a book called Reflective Universe by, what's his name? Arthur Young. Right. Thing that the pattern is talking about. You can still see the general message. That's why initially language was symbols and images. And then later on, each of those symbols can have multiple definitions and meaning. Books can be written on a different symbol. So that's the critical piece. I'm going to show you a lot of different images, but you'll see certain universal patterns in all these images that can help let you know the point. Now, why it's got into that? First of all, you see 4 levels. We have 3rd degree, 2nd degree, 1st degree, and 0 degree freedom. Okay? The highest level of freedom is the level of light. The next level is particles. The next level is atoms. And the lowest level of freedom is molecules. 4. You have astronomy, you have geometry, you have number, and you have music. Then you have rhetoric, grammar, and logic. It's important to understand that astronomy is that first critical piece because initially we did not exist on this planet. So for us to even be sitting here communicating is an astronomical reality. Because without astronomical bodies, there would not be a planet for us to even sit on to talk about. Because right now, we're spinning through space right now. So we're living in an astronomical world. So the thing is, where are you within astronomical time and space? Do you know? Question. So, light, particles, atoms, molecules. So you have light, which is pure energy. Then you have particles, which is this here. I want to show you another image. It talks about so-called. Then it goes. I'll come back to this. So you have this. The concept was this Big Bang theory, right? Initially there was a large explosion or release of energy. Now that release of energy, you had pure energy or light. And what happened was you had a high temperature that over a short period of time went down to a lower temperature. And as that temperature decreased, you had the frequency of the energy's frequency start to decrease, and you had things become denser, right? Became more dense. So at the end, you can see, look this way, like that, you have this decrease in energy, and then you have, from the Big Bang, you have nuclear forces, radiation, matter, light, and cognition. Down here at the bottom, right? See? Cognition. What did you say? Cognitive. When you cognate, when you conscious of. Awareness. Cognitive. Your cognitive skills Right, in school, you got your motor skills, your cognitive skills. Right, that's right. It's your mind, your consciousness. Okay. So then you can see this relative to this. From light to particles to atoms to molecules, then back up to plants, animals, and humans at the top, which deals with consciousness. But the only thing that separates us from animals is we have reflective thought. We can know that we know. Animals don't know that they know, but they do know things. But they don't know that they know. Humans know that they know that they think. But animals do think, but they don't know that they think. So cognition, they're not cognitive of their thinking capacity. Or at least the lower animals. I think the whole person research, some of the other animals may know. We don't know. You can't communicate with them out here. But if you get in, then if you go into the whole study of melanin and how melanin is within the cerebral spinal system, it's within the 12 major centers of the brain. As you go higher up the evolutionary scale and get from lower animals to humans, you get higher concentrations within the 12 centers of the brain. Lower level animals do not have full melanin in all 12 centers of the brain. Humans are the only ones that have full melanated in the 12 centers within the brain. So it then indicates that the higher you go up on the evolutionary scale within your cerebral spinal system, the more melanated your brain centers become. And that's a whole other study in terms of the significance of that. What's the fundamental significance of melanin? Its fundamental characteristics. It pulls in light. It absorbs radiation and it transforms that radiation into usable forms of energy. Right. Both light and sound. And it's in all your nervous, in all your nervous system. It's in your brain, it's in your ears, it's in your eyes, it's in your sexual organs. It enwraps the nerve sheaths. That when you have electrical impulses that go across your nervous system, there is a melanin tract that helps to facilitate the transmission of that electromagnetic energy. That's one of the reasons why African American people are a lot more coordinated, because melanin is a superconductor, which means that you can cool at higher level of temperature, which means this whole energy of staying cool. We are conscious of things but we don't understand what they are. We talk about soul. We really not understand the deeper levels of that statement. We talk about cool. We talk about the feeling or the vibe. We're talking about really energy that operates within our consciousness, but we don't have the science to understand what's really going on.
You know, and that word cool was used in the ancient. You know, being cool is supposed to be, together or everything is all right. You know, I shocked when I found that out.
Now, also, if you relate to these levels, if you go back over here, you can see the greatest level of freedom is at the cognitive level. You're also seeing that we move involution was down, now evolution is up, and then we move from light, and now we're moving back toward light. And light is true. Within light has intelligence, because light functions off of universal law. So within the nature of light is universal law. So then you have the birth of matter from energy. So you have high energy photons, which is cosmic rays, which is light. Photons is light energy, and melanin absorbs photons. So melanin absorbs cosmic energy. And then you have it spiraling into opposite directions in a magnetic field, getting electrons and positrons. So then you have from the one, you get two. number, arithmetic. So number is inherent in the universe. And all we do is uncover what is already there. We didn't invent number, we discovered it. Because numbers is, we're made with numbers. If you measure your head, your body is equal to 10 of your heads. There are a number of other measurements that you can do with the parts of your body that are symmetrical.
It's a Trinity also.
Yes, it is.
It's a Trinity.
That's right. Then what happens is, when it comes down, the Trinity then flips. Because then you'll have an action and a reaction, and then you create a synthesis, a new synthesis. So because energy is moving down, that synthesis creates denser forms. But then, moves to spiral down. To make the energy go up to a higher level, you have to bring a higher level of energy. That's why I say the problem cannot be solved on the level of the problem. You have to go to a higher level. Okay, so now, then out of that, then you had this. This is celestial sphere. This is the Milky Way Galaxy. This ain't our solar system. This is the galaxy that our solar system is spiraling in. This little dot is a little dot right there. Right there. And that dot is also located, I can't see it in this picture here. I think it's about right here. I think it's right there. It is. Right over here. This dot is our solar system. That little dot is our solar system. Our sun and all the planets is that little dot right there. That's spiraling in the Milky Way Galaxy. The Milky Way Galaxy is one of billions of galaxies that are spiraling in the universe. Yeah.
You know, I first mean one turning in Latin.
One turning.
One turning.
Right. And that's one turning.
What's that again?
That's it. The universe is like one turning. Oh, one turning. Right. It's interesting. Universe. Verse. One verse. The word. The logos. See, all that stuff hooks back up. Once you can see those connecting patterns.
So there, a great year would be one revolution of this whole.
No.
So you're talking about all the galaxies.
No, the great year is within, see, our solar system
Just
flying around, right. But it takes more than 26,000 years for it to go all the way around that. This is another great cycle that's going on. So then, now we get down to our solar system. That's our solar system, with the sun in the center, and all the planets spiraling around it as we're traveling around the galaxy. So we're spiraling through space. And as you know, all that's energy fields. That's a field of energy, and that kind of haze that's going around here is the asteroid belt. That's between Mars and Jupiter.
We're aligning within a line.
That's right. Yes,
Is
sir.
that solid white line going down the center of the sun's track?
Right. That's the sun.
What are those lines going around the track of the sun?
Those are planets.
Those are other planets
Those
too?
are planets. The planets within the haze, or it's like the closest planet is Mercury, then Venus, then Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn. Then outside you got Neptune. So here, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter. No, excuse me. Right, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Earth.
Earth, Mars.
Earth, Mars, whatever, okay, right. I'm already doing some little, excuse me. Then you get to, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter. Between Jupiter and Mars is the asteroid belt. So then Mars, then you get, where's the sun? What's the sun? Let's see, where? Well, you got to have Venus.
Earth,
right. Then you have Venus and Mercury between the sun. You're right. So then, that's what that is.
So there's an asteroid belt between the highly spiritual planets.
From Mars and Jupiter.
Yeah. There's a medium there.
Right, because Jupiter and Saturn are your social planets,
Right.
and then Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are your transpersonal or your universal or cosmic planets. And Mars and Venus represent, Mars and Earth. That's interesting, because you have Venus inferior and Mars exterior. Mars is more of the initiating, right?
Yeah.
The masculine initiating. But Venus is the feminine or the receptive. Right. It's the magnetic, which pulls you in, where Mars is the third, pushes you out.
It's kind of reminds
Right. And that's what he said. He said that reminds him of the spinal column. It also reminds you of this. Here is the DNA helix, which is the actual structure of the genetic coding system. The molecule that creates the genetic code, that is the foundation of the structure of the physical form, is in the same format as a cosmic pattern. So when we say nature geometrized, the way that we can understand things we don't see is we understand the pattern by which the universe operates. We understand the pattern by which the universe operates by identifying positions within the pattern. You can project things you don't see because you know the law of the universe operates a certain way. Well, we demonstrated that. Back to here.
That's the process.
Right. From light or photons, you have it then divides up into electrons and positrons. So basically, as it decelerated, you had a splitting because the energy, as it slowed down, I guess the energy became less stable. Boom, it split up. So then, in reconfiguring, it reconfigured into atoms. So different atoms then create the substance, create different molecules. Yes, oh yes. Because in a sense you have the female and the male who come back together who create another life form. Same process. Everything is really operating on the same process. So you have number, you also have geometry going on. Now, let's keep moving here. So we have the spiral helix here. These other two cylinders are talking about time cycles and octaves. You got the logarithmic cylinder, and it's just talking about how with life, as life evolves, time condenses. In terms of when you get older, a lot more things happen within the same period of time because you become more conscious. When you're a kid, it seems like, wow, it takes a long time for things to happen. When you get older, it's like, dang, time is condensing. That's because you're becoming more conscious. So more activities are going on within the same amount of time. So that means that time moves, it seems to move faster. But then if time measures the duration between experiences, in a sense, time would be contracted. Because more experiences are happening within the same duration. So it's more time, and so it's faster. So this comes out of this book called The Round Arc. he has a whole piece talking about how the different octaves of light are related to the different logarithmic scales, and how certain experiences will happen within certain time frames because of the logarithm, the mathematics. I haven't got into a detailed study of it. But as you see, he talks about conception, birth, childhood, maturity, death, and then a transcendent octave, which could possibly relate to a death rebirth cycle. So he gets it. He has another book where he gets into more detail talking about this whole logarithmic principle. So again, all these are various schools or departments and classes that is a whole study within itself. Okay, I want to move to okay, we're talking about energy. Okay, we got here. Now, we got the rays of the sun. We got the over on the side, we have the electromagnetic spectrum. And then you have invisible light, visible light, and then invisible light. And basically what it's saying is showing you the various levels of energy radiation that's coming down and hitting the Earth. Also at the bottom it talks about the ionosphere, the stratosphere, and what's that? Troposphere, and how far they are. And the exosphere is like 500 miles out.
Those nanometers, those are the frequency.
The frequency to the sun. Right, and for each of the different rays. So you have cosmic rays, gamma rays, X-rays, far ultraviolet, middle and near ultraviolet, then violet, blue, green, yellow, orange, pink, red, shortwave, infrared, radio waves, and electric waves. Okay.
You gave me a tape, and it was something about sunglasses, we shouldn't cover eyes, because we need that sunlight coming in to give us that color.
Right. Well, hey, let me show you something. Since you mentioned that, let's see that. Here, relative to melanin, visible light comes in your eye, goes to your optic nerve. And on the back of the optic nerve, there are the cones, and those cones sit in a melanin base that then takes that energy and transmits that energy into a neurological or neural impulse that then goes to the brain. Also, visible light increases the production of melanin. So if you shield yourself from direct sunlight, you limit the production of melanin. And melanin is actually, say, the doorway, the chemical that's the doorway that creates the connection between the visible and the invisible.
What about artificial light?
Artificial light, if it doesn't reproduce the same wavelengths of the sun, is a limitation. It's really a destructive mechanism. And if you look at our lifestyle, how we are now living from house to car to building to car to house, a lot of the degenerative diseases are direct effect of our lack of exposure to sunlight.
You know, speaking of light, they've actually studied when they found these man specifically in some of the colder regions in the northern hemisphere. And what they found is that by putting these people under the same type of light or the same frequency of light that you get from the sun, it keeps them from being natural. Yes. Yes. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sure somebody.
Yeah, there's a goal.
Sunlight, you see it quite well, you take it indoors, totally different. I can
But
read it now, right?
it kind of does, it kind of lifts you up. I don't know if it's emotion or physical.
Here we go. Here you go, right here. Here you go.
One of the major causes of death was right meal suicide.
The highest suicide rate,
Right.
Because they're magically
Right.
not enough sunlight.
Right.
You know?
So here you see what sunlight does. Just by being exposed to sunlight, it improves your electrocardiogram, it lowers your blood pressure, it lowers your resting heart rate, it increases your cardiac output, it lowers your blood cholesterol, it increases your glycogen stored in the liver, it lowers blood sugar, it increases energy endurance and muscle strength. This is just exposure to sunlight, 15 minutes a day. Talking about visible light, opposed to the melatonin production. It penetrates deep into the tissues and lowers your CAMP, which is a thing that aids resistance to disease. Ultraviolet light also increases the body's resistance to disease, increases lymphocyte and what's that, phagocytic index. It increases the capacity of the blood to carry oxygen. It increases adrenaline in tissues and tolerance to stress. It increases sex hormones. It tans and increases the resistance of the skin to infection. This is just by being exposed to sunlight. That's why we're talking about recreating a truly African civilization. We have to also recreate transportation systems, housing systems. We have to bring these principles, these laws into the actual creation of our community.
Some brothers with their sunglasses.
Especially
at night.
I wouldn't sometimes.
Guilty, me too guilty.
I'll be 15 minutes a day. Sometimes your sunglasses has observation posts. I'm just talking about females. Shit.
Can't see a wandering eye.
My sunglasses box. We also have, we talk about the spiral image. Talk about the flow of energy of the chakras. Basically, you have these different aspects of the body. Of course, you got the central channel that goes up and down your spinal column. You have the physical body, etheric body, astral, which is like your emotional body, the mental body, the causal body. Causal body is what they talk about, is what houses the essence of your life experiences, and the causal body carries forth the seed of the soul. As you die, causal body is that which maintains the invisible world that is called back into the next body. And the essence of all the other bodies are held within the causal body. But all of it is energy. That means the arc. The arc. Y'all know what we're talking about? We say the arc. Right. System. You got the cause and the higher spiritual body, the mental body, astral body, etheric body, the physical body. Then within the physical body, which is within the dotted lines, then you have the chakras, chakra network, you have the acupuncture meridian system, you have the bioelectronic system, you have the peripheral nervous system, you have the crystalline energy system, which is the biochemical, which is a crystalline substance, crystals, like we used to make crystal sets, some of us made crystal sets in junior high school, which were like little radios. And you got all of this tied with the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is created when the sperm hits the egg. It impregnates it. It then encapsulates itself within a melanin sheath. That melanin sheath then invaginates, moves inward, and that invagination creates the outline for the cerebral spinal system and the brain, which is the central nervous system, which is the center from which all these energetic bodies operate from. You should meditate on that in terms of just what the significance of that is.
What is that crystal what?
This comes out of a book called Vibrational Medicine. I believe it's called Vibrational Medicine.
You gonna get copies of these?
Please? No. Okay, go buy the book.
Okay.
Got to do some struggling.
Sorry, like this.
Well, we're trying to, part of my teacher's legacy is that you have the idea is for each person to build a personal library. In the old days, the library was housed in one-way structure. They burned the library down, all the books go.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's for each individual to build a personal library and never destroy the library.
So did that. Are you gonna give a book list out?
Yeah, we did a book list, and Orland has a book list of all these books, so I'll just pull it out and make a copy of that.
So crystals, I guess, they use crystals for healing.
That's right. Crystals capture different frequencies of energy. Resonate with different vibrations.
Looks like the key here is melody is
The key to greatness.
between the in and the outer.
That's right. What was that?
Melanin is the link between the in and the outer. It's a transmission medium.
Right. And melanin is in humans as photosynthesis is the plant. And photosynthesis is the capturing of light and transforming that light into oxygen. The oxygen is respiration, the breath. Then we exhale carbon dioxide, which then also relates to water, which then goes into another photosynthesis. But then plant life absorb the carbon dioxide and then transform it back into oxygen, which is the photosynthesis process.
So the precursors.
There is plant melanin. There is a plant form of melanin.
The chlorophyll?
Well, there's actual melanin. There's a plant form of melanin. They said even the melanin content in soil. Yeah, but there's certain soil that have a higher concentration than others, and there's a whole other.
That's why you give it a chance. That's why you
One of them.
absorbing the light.
Chlorophyll and the secondary, the primary protein is found with secondary protein. You want to design these meat anyway, so if you just have knowledge of your system, you know you want to design these meat. Here is Zodiac, we're talking about astronomy. But then all of this was talking about astronomy, geometry, number, the frequency, the number of frequencies, that's the number value. And then I was trying to find mine. If you look at the calculus of an electron, it's a geometrical pattern that deals with triangles in terms of how energy operates with an electromagnetic field. Because if you have a current that flows down an electrical current flow, there's always a magnetic field that's created at 90 degrees to electron flow. So 90-degree triangle is the symmetric right triangle, which they call the Pythagorean theorem. Which, since I jumped there, I'm going to jump around a little bit, just check out the
Say
path.
that again as well.
I'm saying that when electrons flow, the electrical path, at a 90-degree angle to the path of electron flow, you have a magnetic field that's created. So you actually have electromagnetic flux lines that radiate off of the electron flow at 90-degree angle. So then a 90-degree angle is the angle of the right triangle. Which then brings us back into a number of things. I'll get there. We'll just hold that thought and we'll come back to it. I have a few things we'll come back to. So then, this is the two zodiacs. So we were talking about the whole thing about the procession of the equinoxes. And so you have the constellations in the outer circle, which represent the celestial zodiac. Those are the stars that are outside our solar system, that are within the Milky Way Galaxy, outside our solar system though, that create about an 18-degree band around the celestial equator. The celestial equator, if you project the equator of the Earth out in space, 18 degrees, 9 above and 9 below is a band, and then within that band, the star clusters within that band have been designated as the Zodiacal Constellations. And they have constellations all 360 degrees around us. But those particular 12 are within that zodiacal band around the celestial equator that we mark time with. That's the sign of the zodiac. So then, now, the smaller circle here is the Earth, the sun going around the Earth. I mean, the Earth going around the sun. Wait a minute. That's the Earth, this is the sun. Excuse me. Right there. Okay, so that's the Earth going around the sun. So this inner circle is the circle of the seasons. Right? Spring, fall, summer, and winter. That's the tropical zodiac. So every year at springtime, that means when the sun crosses the equator, we have equal day and equal night. That's considered Aries. So that's the beginning of the cycle. Then it goes to Taurus and such. That's the tropical zodiac. Then the sidereal relates to stellar star time. It's related to the constellations which are out here. So while we say an age of Pisces is when Aries comes at spring, if you look at the constellation that is operative in the constellation in the sidereal time, we're in Pisces. So tropically we're in Aries, but sidereally we're in Pisces. And that sidereal time is an age. It takes approximately 26,000 years to go through this complete circle, retrograding back through those 12 constellations. That's the great year. Our solar system. Our solar system. Our solar system. Right. Basically, right, the sun relative to the Earth related to the tropical season. Because every time the Earth comes back around to the spring, it comes back a little bit later. Because there's a lot of different motions that happen. You know, the Earth is spinning, it's tilting, the sun is spinning, it's elliptical, it's not just a circle. You have other forces, the other planets are operating on the sun, you have other constellations operating on the sun. So all these different forces and different speeds create what we call a procession. You don't come back exactly in the same locations of the heavens. And so every 1 degree every 72 years, we're going in retrograde. So it takes 1 degree every 72 years, we're retrograding back to the constellations.
You mean we're spinning the counterclockwise?
Counterclockwise manner. So relative to the constellations. That's what they call the precession of the equinox. We're going from Pisces to Aquarius. That's backwards. Why that was? Yeah. That's why it is. Because the motion is slower, like a retrograde motion. And basically, a retrograde motion is like both. It's like in a car. You travel in a car, and you pass another car. Both of you still going forward, but it looks like this car relative to you is going backwards. That's why it's retrograde, but it's still, because when the orbit, the planets are going around in space, they're still going around, but some of the planets move faster than the others. And in the orbit, when you get to the smaller end of the ecliptic, it moves quicker than when it goes to the longer part. So like here, it would take more time to travel this distance than to travel around that distance because it's short amount of it's short. So then one planet orbit might come out like this, another one's coming in this way, so they start crisscrossing each other. And so relative to the Earth, those planets are retrograde, and then relative to the constellations, it's retrograde.
If we understand that, then we also could probably determine when this great year actually begins, or how many great years it actually expired.
Sure. Well, the Earth, they said the Sun's life is 10 billion years. They said we're basically 50%. We've basically been 5 billion into his life. And a great year is approximately 26,000 years. So divide 26,000 into 5 billion. It'll give you how many great years have occurred. Then if you get a historical timeline, you can see, relative to where we are, you can go back in time and start seeing what ages were operative during different historical periods. So the age of Aries was the age of the ram. So if you go back history, the great religions were based upon the ram, the horns, and the whole imagery of the ram. It was also the age of Aries, because Aries was ruled by Mars, the god of war. So that was also a time when the Aryans came in, and the great conquering happened. Prior to that was the age of Taurus, the bull. It was also the age ruled by Venus. So that was a lot of great works of art and architecture and building. Really at a high point. Sorry. Go back behind, right. The god symbolism was of the bull. Apis. Go back behind the bull, you get the age of Gemini, the twin. Probably goes back to Set and Horus.
When they first started measuring this, then it would have started around the time.
Well, see, then you need to read both Albert Churchward's book, Origin and Evolution of Religion, or the Evolution of the Human Race, read Massey's works. Book of Beginnings, Natural Genesis, Egypt, Light of the World. He gets into the evolution of consciousness relative to how we dealt with time. Because the way we relate to time and cycles, our language, rhetoric, and grammar evolved, really rhetoric evolved out of interpreting phenomena based upon time. The first was light and dark, day and night. So then we moved out of that into stars, stellar cult, because certain rise and fall of certain stars, especially along the Nile, signaled the rainy season and the overflow of the Nile. It was also harvest time and planting time. So we had to get in tune with these cycles or we starved. And so we saw crops growing and animals being born at certain seasons, at certain periods of time. So we know there's a relationship between the cosmos and the earth. We also saw people were born at certain times at certain characteristics of behavior that was related to the energy pattern that was operative at that particular time. $260,000 Egyptian. Yeah, actually, he talked about the pyramids were actually 75,000 years old. Origin, evolution of religion.
You know, the reason I had asked is I remember reading while we were doing there, it mentioned that
cycles. Cosmic symbol. Capstone, sonic keystone, all these geometrical patterns. You see the great rectangle, which became the foundation for the temple. Even the universities are based upon a rectangular structure, a rectangular coordinate. Okay, the capstone, right here. The capstone, you see it. You got to make your mind become versatile. You want to put it just like that. You put an archway on both sides of these, right? An arch. And then you have right triangles in there. Corners. You see the two, you have the summer solstice and the winter solstice, the two high and low points of the orbit of the Earth, which is the apparent order of the sun relative to the tropic of Cancer and tropic of Capricorn, which represents the tropics. So it creates these celestial patterns.
The horizontal line now represents the Earth
And the ecliptic. Now this is the equator, right here. The ecliptic is actually, what's the ecliptic? Ecliptic relative to the plane of the ecliptic. This is the horizon. This is the equator. The ecliptic may actually be related to the celestial horizon. It's that straight line. See, we're on the planet, but the planet is tilted. So the equator would be like this. But the ecliptic is that parallel line that we're looking at, that's similar to this. Similar to the horizon,
like your line of sight.
Right. And that's 23 and 30 degrees between the equator and the ecliptic. Right. It's what? Which is 23 and 30 degrees. This is up here. This is the pole star. The sun, really the Earth is aligned the Ursa Minor.
Pole star is not the dog star?
No. The dog star, that's different. The dog star is related to Sirius. When it rises before the sun, it announced the open point of the night. That's why it's called the dog star. Because the rise is equivalent to a dog barking when something was going to happen. So it announced you that you know that something was coming. What was coming was the Nile was going to flood. So it was dog.
The pole star is going to change.
They shift, yeah, they shift. Those 7 pole stars shift. So that's why they say, and when they shift, they go below, I think they're seen below below sight. And so visually, it was like they went up under the cosmic sea. Because so what they call those periods, if you got 7 and 25, that's about what, 3,000 plus years. You have a shifting of the pole stars, or the alignment toward the pole star. So then they talk about how you had a different reign, or a different God concept also related to the pole stars. Because the different stars, the great delusions came when the pole star, which was the reign, went down in those cycles. The cosmos was a great sea, so it's like it got swallowed up. And then there's Draco, I believe, constellation of the dragon or the great snake that circumscribes the pole stars. And so it's like the great dragon was consuming or swallowing. All this is in this book also, Spiritual Astrology. The concept of the serpent biting his tail. That's in your Morris. That deals with spiritual astrology, gets into the stories. This is C.C. Zane. He's come out of the Brotherhood of Light. C.C. C.C. Zane. Yeah, that's right.
That's what reminded me of it. That was what the other thing talking about, the symbol of the bear. I needed something that more basic.
Oh, no,
Well, quick here, let me show you this.
okay, here. Now I'll show you how the ancients developed their art and their ritual based upon the celestial pattern of the sun. Because the sun was the manifested God. They knew that the power behind the sun, the unseen, was the true God. The sun was the representation of the unseen, or the manifested God, power. Because if you see all what the sun does for us, it's a source of light, life, and love, because through its power we get respiration and food and all these things. So if you take this image, which is a procession, then if you impose this on top of it, you will get, okay, you can see how the hands and all these angles, this angle here is at the same angle of the equator. Here in his hand, which means that the ancients understood the cosmic geometrical patterns that the sun made in its course through the heavens. And how it affected. So in the book of Coming Forth by Day, Dr. King talks about how the ancients were aware of the process of energy transformations and spiritual insight. Also, we talked about the 3, 4, 5 triangle. And then the whole issue of the penis being at the point of the navel. Where the navel is the point where you attach to the womb. Like your umbilical cord. Actually, where you're attached to. It's interesting though, because we talked about it. I was saying we talked about the Trinity is energy, substance, and form. And so the energy will be the creative force, the drive of life to be. For that life to be, it has to have substance. And so the energy is the masculine, it's the initiation. The substance is the female. It is the material upon which becomes impregnated with energy, which creates the womb through which form is born out of. And then if you say, then the umbilical cord is the attachment to the mother's womb, whose blood is through the mother's blood that you are fed. And then they were talking about how the mother's blood means that you don't create blood out of nothing. You're fed the mother's blood, which means that the mother's blood is a continuation of all blood from the beginning of blood. Because there hasn't been any break in the transmission of blood from one generation to the next, from the beginning of time or beginning of human existence.
That's why they're trying to put the women in the army.
That's just women reacting to this male thing. Okay? They're just pushing for equality. That's the whole thing. We're talked about with anti-Andromeda. Anti-Andromeda is when you have one thing that is of the extreme, calls forth its opposite. Yeah. So because the masculine energy has been dominant and so extreme, it calls forth its opposite. So now the opposite has been the females have been coming in with an opposite reaction.
But if they eliminate females,
Say what?
if they eliminate the females, they eliminate the possibility of...
They eliminate themselves.
Where are you going to go?
Hmm?
Excuse me?
See, that's not doing this volunteer. The females are pushing for this, but the females are responding to a cosmic drive to equalize conditions. Because as you get more females into the military, and that over time, they're going to move up the ranks. As they move up the ranks and get more involved in decision making, they're going to change the nature of decisions. And eventually, they're going to humanize the whole process. The interaction with women with the military, with the men over a period of time is also going to transform the way the men act. So it's a part of a cosmic process.
But that process will take a longer period of time than they're allowing it because of the way in which they are structuring their particular domination over the females as they come in.
But remember, an extreme calls into existence is opposite. So by them trying to clamp down more and create more control, they're going to lose control. That's the absolute law. So you don't get hung into these little temporary things that's going on. Because if you go back to the absolute, you know what the outcome eventually is going to be. But then it might not be in this lifetime.
Yeah, that's the whole thing because before that would happen, that system will destruct and then it will start all over again.
Well, which system was it?
Before the females are able to go up to the higher level, well, unless Hillary does her thing.
Okay, again, the temporal is the unreal. The universal is the real. The physical is a reflection of the unseen. The seen is a reflection of the unseen. So the physical things that are happening are a reflection of a greater spiritual thing that's going on. So it's not the female, right now it's the female in the physical form because society, we've been conditioned to relate to the feminine in the physical form. But in actuality, each human being is male and female. Because it's also what is happening is that you know that there's becoming a transformation in consciousness in the male or some males. A lot of them are resisting this change by trying to become more macho or whatever. But the thing I'm saying is, these outer things are just symptoms of a greater thing that's happening behind the scenes. And so when you're saying they're not going to give them time, first of all, time is illusory. And we are part of a great, if you understand these time cycles, we're in a greater time stage here. Perception of the ages. So we're in the age of Pisces, right? Yes. Preparation. Aquarius. Spiritual perfection. This come out of a book called, what is that thing? Gospel of the Stars. Come next week, I'll bring it. But I think it's on the book list. It's in the book list. Like it's in the book list. Doesn't matter. All of it is book list. Like it's not. That's the one you passed out? All the stuff is about some of the glasses you passed out years ago. Because, here they have 2010 AD, being the beginning of the Aquarian age. We say really, or we're in the doorway now. So you already see, I've really seen the Aquarian age really started actively happening around mid-1800s. Because Aquarian age deals with science and technology and air travel and electronics. It deals with acceleration. It deals with the age of the revealing of which was hidden in the past will become revealed. So you can look at historically how a lot of things happened during that mid-1600s, really when Neptune came into operation. So anyway, just want to show you that.
You got Leo's first.
Right, which is the opposite of where we are now. Leo.
What's the difference?
Into Leo.
8800 BC. He has it
Started at 11,000 BC. Right.
But it started.
That's just one of them.
One of them.
Yeah, I had another image
That showed the spiral.
But you get the picture of a spiral. You're jumping around, your time is slowly coming to an end.
At least our tape is coming to an end. Our time never comes to an end.
Okay, so we'll get off of that. Okay, what else do y'all need to see? I want to show you this other piece. This piece here again.
But I have one more that also just shows how the ancient.
And again, let's see where we at. Right here. Puts you into alignment with
It
the.
goes back to that picture you showed earlier about the work of the pyramid with.
You can even see how they always have the cross. And then here where the shoulders are, the shoulders fit right. Right in there. Right. The nose and everything fits right in there. So again, it lets you know that they were conscious of these celestial patterns. Okay. What else are we going to do? Okay, I want to show you another cosmic pattern. Was here. Fourfold factor. In terms of the cosmic patterns. Which also then, this is the structure of DNA. So in one you have the 3, right, the center, and the 2 helixes. And then you have the 4, which is the actual DNA cross-section. So the 3 and the 4, the bottom of the pyramid is a square, 4, and the sides are 3. So again, the celestial patterns are inherent in nature itself. So if you go within self and meditate and deep into self, you're going to reflect these same universal patterns. Then when they talked about the dialectics, the fourfold pattern. Same thing, you see the fourfold pattern. Right, and then you got the Kemetic dealing with the Yad-He-Vah-He, which is the Tetragrammaton, which is the name also they use for the Christ, or God, Jehovah. What's that? Yad-He-Vah-He deals with Jehovah. Okay, which really represents the 4 elements, fire, air, earth, and water. Remember when we talked about the first symbolism of light coming down? There were 4 levels. And you came from light down into matter. The 4 elements, fire, air, water, and earth. So you had fire, gas, water, and earth. Tetragrammaton of the Yad-He-Vah-He. Then, you want to go, well, let me show you this. Then we go into the Chinese body. They have the I Ching. based upon the yin and the yang, the duality, the Tao, the one, the photon into the electron and the proton, the male and the female, the positive and negative, and then that manifests into many different things, which is basically the eightfold hexagram, which is the foundation for the I Ching, which is the same as the Kemetic, the Ifa Odus, 16 Cowries, and the Orishas. Ifa, which is the metaphysical system of Yoruba, is based upon the same principles of duality, the 8 and the 16. You have the 16 Odus, and then you have the 256 various verses in the book of Ifa, which is based upon energetic principle of the universe. Although Yoruba history comes out of, they came from the East and they were expression. When the fall of Kemet came, they migrated out and went into the various other parts of Africa. But then you put this on top of this, again, you see the same structure is there. Okay. Let's see here. So now we're talking about the Earth's magnetic field, magnetic organ in the pineal gland, and then a differentiation into electrical currents and nerve impulses, and then how these things affect muscle movement, vision, hearing, touch. You have also electrical currents are connected with the repair. Very small, minute electrical DC currents are related to the repair of organs in the body. They've been doing experimentation on animals that can regenerate their limbs, like lizards and salamanders. They had seen that when that limb was severed, that there was still remaining an electric field or etheric field, energy field, where that limb existed. And as the cells start to reduplicate themselves, that polarization of that energy communicated with the DNA to provide it with the proper code so it knew what type of cells needed to be reformed again. They was wondering, well, how does the thing know to create a certain kind of limb? And they started doing experiments, holding it and trying to stop it from blowing just to see what happened. And they were saying that there's all of these energetic fields in the body that are in communication with the whole, that actually guide the development of the atoms that make up the molecules that create the cells. It's all energetic. So then if you say then if we're moving into a new electromagnetic field in terms of the Aquarian age, that greater electromagnetic field then will polarize the lesser electromagnetic field and causing for an actual biochemical change. And our bodies will then respond to a different frequency. Our minds will pick up on it, and depending upon our level of consciousness, will depend upon what we do with it. Because everything has a positive and a negative.
Brothers out there running up and down the basketball court, they're going to be able to zoom right on over the basketball.
Now, if you look at the chakra system, which is also, let me show you this one right quick. Let me put that one on. Okay, we talked about the square and the trinity, which is also, if you talk about in the 7 liberal arts and sciences, you had the trividium and the quadrivium, right? You got the 4 to 3, astronomy, geometry, arithmetic, and music. Then you got rhetoric, grammar, and logic. 4 to 3. But then you can also see, again, we talk about the 4 to 3, 3 times 4 is 3 plus 4 is 7, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 signs of the Zodiac, 7-fold nature of man, how all these things are implied. The 4 is the lower nature, and the 3 is the higher nature. So then you have the 4 primary initiations, which then creates mastery of the cube, perfecting the cube, which in masonry you take the rough ashlar and you perfect it into the perfect cube, which is the lower nature, which then by mastering the lower nature it becomes a vehicle or foundation upon which you create the pyramid or the capstone, which is the higher consciousness or the higher mind. That's right. So then if you look at this, if you look at the 7 seals in the book of Revelations, it relates to the 7 chakras. Open the 7 seals, open the 7 chakras. The 7 nervous plexuses, which are along the CNS, the cerebral, the central nervous system, which is that central energy pathway where all the energies of the body connect. And then you see that each of those levels relate to a different number. You got 333, sensuality, 4445, 666 is the beast, is the lower mind, the lower nature, where you're focused on the lower world of physical. 777 is the cross, and then 888 is Isis, the higher mind, the lamb, which is actually where they got Jesus. One of the aspects of Jesus is the higher mind. Then you got intuitively wise and the conqueror, which actually is the Trinity. The top 3 is the Trinity. Because the conqueror is the divine will, the 1,000-petal lotus that creates the halo that the saints had that indicated that they had activated their higher consciousness and become conquerors of the lower nature. And if you add all those numbers together, you get 144,000.
Oh, man.
Wasn't that necessary to get into the kingdom?
Right. 144,000, those that would be saved.
What they can do with little interpretation of.
That's right. If you're uninitiated, you can't read it. That's why the age of Aquarius is the age of initiation, where the veil will be lifted from the eyes of the masses, so it cannot be hoodwinked and bamboozled.
So we each have 7 seals.
That's right. Book of Life is your energy field. They say the angel is with you, recording everything you do in the Book of Life. That's the causal body that we show you. It's the essence of all the energy. Every thought, every action, every feeling is an electromagnetic impulse. The quality of which is recorded in your own energy field. That's the
Picture weighing. The heart
Right.
is weighing on the scale.
That's right.
7 or 5.
Because every moment you're being weighed in the balance against truth. Either relative truth or absolute truth. But my is absolute truth. So when you make your decision, when you discriminate and make a choice, is it relative to my eye? So then are you in balance? Are you in harmony? That's the music. The true music was the music of the spheres. The music of the spheres is the energy patterns created by the astronomical cycles that create harmonic energies. Are you in tune with that? Do you know where you are within the musical scale of time?
Whoa.
How are you jamming with your personal rhythm of life? So,
No copy now.
if we get into the true period, so-called 47 following Euclid was an initiate who had been trained and came in and opened up a school or an institute teaching the teachings. Then they talk about what Pythagoras did. Is he didn't teach anything new. What he did is he took the teachings out of mythology and encouched them into the conversation of the new Europeans, because their way was the way of without the melanin and behind their own historical story. For them to get the message, it had to be created into another language. And so the so-called Ionian philosophers' greatness came in is that they articulated the ancient wisdom in a rhetoric and a grammar that was suited to the new Indo-Europeans.
So they taught in parable.
they brought it down into more of a intellectual exercise. They took it out of a lot of the mythological mythology and symbolism and they transformed the symbols into something that was more equivalent with the minds of the Indo-Europeans, which was the age of Aquarius. The age of Aries. They brought in the Aryan age, which brought in the Piscean age, which was the preparation for the Aquarian age. So, see, again, when we expand our sense of time, we see that what is going on now is a part of a whole process in preparation for a greater action. That's what I see. Synthesis. Between humans? Yeah. The age of Aquarius, yeah. Right. The age of Aquarius is the age of synthesis. Right. That last part. Right. Because the slave trade repopulated the planet with the African seed. It also took the Africans out of Africa and created a unified group. Because now we are all people. African Americans are all people. We have all races in us. We represent all races. Every shade of the rainbow, every group of people can be traced to us, is in us. If we can expand our consciousness and understand who we really are the key to the Aquarian age. Not as a superiority thing, because now it's been responsibility. We have work to do, but we have a role to play. Yes, role of the Europeans. Well, the Europeans was to bring in the mechanization and to bring in the scattering, the mentality. They brought in this whole mechanism. The globe now is going to be networked, where you can communicate with the total planet now. Where, because we, the Africans, have become crystallized to a certain degree, because we always related to the past. So we always did what our ancestors did. But as time changes, we have to evolve to another level. And so then part of that process, although physically it seems very harsh, but without that level of harshness, you wouldn't have got the mixture that you have today. So if we look futureward as opposed to stop whining on the past, and that little past, and how small is that? We got to go back further than that and look at the big picture and then move to the future. We got to understand who we are. Part of what it is we are, this is who we are. This is our way. So the point now is to bring our way back in modern times, so we can take the technology and redirect it in a humanistic way, as opposed to now it's been done in a very individualistic, greedy way that creates destruction. So now, because of the technology, though, we can educate the total planet, can become educated to the knowledge. And that's really, so for the European, that was the role they played. But at the same time, the European also brought in the negative consequences of the misuse of knowledge. So then we can learn that lesson before we go to a higher level of knowledge. Because if we go to a higher level of knowledge and haven't learned that lesson, that would have been blowed up. Right. In initiations, the mystery schools were closed at the beginning of the Piscean age. So then for us to move to the Aquarian age, we got to reopen. That's why Stolen Legacy is such a key, because it provides us with the curriculum and also the system of key lodges, and then create networks of lodges. And eventually, each person is a temple, so everybody, each one of us becomes a lodge.
There's a section in the book.
Yeah. Second is that?
This is the last chapter.
In terms of the philosophers are lovers of wisdom. And wisdom is the second aspect of the logos, which is the, I guess we could end on that note, like science.
And the importance of meditation.
It's the intuitively wise. That's 999.
What does that mean? No.
That's the intuitively wise. The intuitive mind is the voice of the soul. By going in and listening to your intuitive mind, that's where you gain wisdom.
So
That's the soul knows.
That's where meditation comes in?
That's where meditation comes in.
And what else can we do in order to ascertain this, try to ascertain?
Live a life of virtue and cultivate the seven liberal arts and sciences.
Okay, how can we cultivate several arts of science?
Well, you gotta start studying it.
Okay, and we have this in here.
So the legacy outlines the basic subjects. And then, see, again, by you going into the material, you go into your intuitive mind, purify your heart, it will lead you where you need to go. That was a key point. That was a key point. Right, question, you got a question?
We want to do our homework real quick to get a tape.
So then, that was the question. Yeah, that was it. That was the question. Because that's it. By doing that, you will be given all the truth to wherever you need to go.
And those that just be still and listen to.
That's right.
How long does one should meditate? Does it depend?
It just depends. I mean, ideally, if you get up where you can do at least, ideally you would meditate 20 minutes 2 times a day, morning and evening, ideally. Now, that's at one level. You can start doing 5 minutes, just work your way up. The next level is that life becomes meditation. That means that as you move in your day, you stay within relative to the higher mind. You always are functioning from your higher mind. When things come at you, you come from the wisdom of your heart. You don't be reacting from the mind. So that means you got to maintain a sense of calmness by yourself. Even though you might be doing activity, you still sit in a calm state. That's where you get into constant consciousness. That's where the ultimate goal is. You only get that by practicing, just trying to be there. Be there, you come out, you pull yourself back. Keep doing it over time, depends upon your levels of courage and commitment, all that,
So after you get from that level, there's another level you got to go to, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's the other level after that?
Well, basically, the class, we talked about the levels of initiation. You go through the 3 grades, the mortals, the intelligences, and then the sons and daughters of light. So you move from a level where you start studying the mortals to where you start on the path, studying the material, struggling with the knowledge, struggling with the virtue. As you reach a level of purification, as you become more and more in control of your emotional nature, and then you're directing your mind toward studying the higher principles, what's going to happen is you're going to be led into greater levels of knowledge. Then what's going to happen is you're going to discover your unction. Each of us has a call. You're here for a purpose. So what's your purpose? First thing, what's your purpose? Consciousness. No, you got a specific job that you can play in this time. Now this is a rhetorical question. So then you discover what that is. And once you discover what that is, you start going out in the world and doing it. As you go out in the world and start doing it, you're going to be tempted to use that knowledge in a very selfish way. That's the test. If you overcome the temptation, you will do a transfiguration. You will become that unction that way. And once you become that unction that way, you will then create like there'll be a passion for it. Passion. Once you get to that level where you no longer are held by physical work, if you're passionately into who you really really are, then there will become a little death experience. You will have to give up your attachment to this physical world and become totally united with your spiritual self. To To go through that transition, you want to confront all the negativity that you've accumulated in that causal body through all your lives. The hell experience, you're going to hell. What actually is happening is you're taking away the veil and activating your parapsychological, your existential perception. Once you can overcome the demons that you're going to be interacting with, all those various dark spots and dragons in your own consciousness, once you overcome that battle, you'll be merged with the knowledge. That's what I said, the knowledge in your memory. Oh, no, I can't go that way. That's you can see that stuff. Then you'll be resurrected. Once you come out resurrected, you will be at that 8th level. Intuitively wise. You're Christ. This is the highest level, right? The last phase of this ascension, when you become a son or daughter of light, when you totally merge with that 1,000-petal lotus, you merge with divine will. There's no separation between your will and divine will. There's no separation. It's just like divine. You're in total alignment with the absolute. And once you reach that level, you can reincarnate. You can go wherever you want to go. You choose when you want to come back what you want to do. I mean, a kid there.
You said something about intuitive.
Intuitively wise.
Okay, can you be an intellect? Can you not be an intellect and be intuitively wise?
Yeah.
Okay, now virtues.
Because what is intuition? See, all intuition is really the hyper processing of information instantaneously. So you know, because your system is so in tune, it just processes all of it instantaneously. Where you know it. Where if you go back and analyze the reasons why you came out, there's reasons why. But the amount of data that led up to that takes just time.
Can your intuitive wisdom or knowledge in your can that make you have a higher level of intellect?
It will.
It will. At least up to that.
It will. Yeah, you see, first of all, how much of the brain do we even use? 5, 7%. I mean, there's 93% unutilized. I mean, you have unlimited capacity. Unlimited capacity. The only thing that's limited to you is your level of consciousness. See, you can only connect at your level of consciousness. So if your level of consciousness is down here on the emotional plane or the physical plane, you're only going to be able to process that level of energy. To get to an unlimited capacity, you have to go to the highest level of consciousness. Back up to that light. And light is an absolute. But then to get there, you have to create a vehicle that can withstand that level of energy.
You said you mean how to control it? How to use it?
How to control it. Yeah, because see, as you go to higher levels of energy, it's like sticking your finger in a socket. And if your system is not conditioned to be able to channel that energy properly, you'll get fried. The same thing happens as you deal with other kinds of knowledge. If you go to higher levels of knowledge, you start activating and encountering higher levels of energy. If you have to create a vehicle that can withstand energy, you're going to get fried. And people start going crazy. People become obsessed and possessed. People start doing things, losing control. Because they haven't purified the system. So wherever those impurities are, when you plug in, it's going to go right there. It's going to fire it up. It's going to give it energy. So the next thing you know, you might be seeing demons and stuff coming out. Without really a school or a system, there's all kinds of different diverse things that we all into. So it's very important. The other thing is that this is the
real program is that you have to go back. There's a whole personal program. So you have to get the astrological chart. I need to go back and look at what is your birth potential, what are the negative and positive energies in you. You have to go back and do an autobiographical sketch of yourself. With the whole process of doing physical discipline, emotional discipline, you have to go back and actually do new spiritual foundation for everything that you feel. So a process of this, we have certain processes that you go through over this period of time. We practice these things. You have to practice separation, observation of yourself. Where you go through your day with your journal, and you have to kind of dream or interpret the dream. You have to learn to walk around and look at yourself, do what you do. So as an observer, right? So that you can see why you're doing what you're doing. Every evening you're supposed to do a reflective reversal of your whole day. See when you go back through your day in reverse to see what you did and what you didn't do. So that you can really look at it and then, make amends for negative stuff you did, look at the successful things you did, clean the slate before you go to sleep, and the next day you start cleaning again. So all these are processes, in the whole wisdom program I say that. That's really, committed to 40 years, so you know, lifelong, over about 20 years you become conditioned to where you automatically respond to some type of reconditioning. Because initiation is a recreation process. You're literally recreated into a new person. They say you're born into this world, but you have to be created